Auston Matthews scores again and is now on the cusp of history, but is time running out to reach the magic number? This is the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Whoa, look at that, Dave. A brand new intro to lead us off here for the week. And why not? It's basically the end of the season. You got playoffs right around the corner. So we thought, let's up our game and get a new intro into the fold. Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, the daily Maple Leafs centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. What's going on, Dave? How was your weekend?
It's pretty good, pretty light for the most part. I mean, we're just getting into that final grind here.
You gonna tell the people what you did this weekend? I, for one, was pretty impressed when you shared with the class what you did earlier.
Yeah, so I mean, I've been doing this for about, I'd say, somebody asked me how long I've been doing it for. 18 years almost of doing my own tires changing.
Well, that's good. Changes his own winter tires and summer tires. I don't know. I go to the mechanic or whatever. Like I'm a lazy guy when it comes to, I don't know, when it comes to cars, I know nothing. Absolutely. I barely know where to put my windshield fluid, dog. Like it's insane how little I know when it comes to cars. So I applaud that, man. I wish I knew how to do stuff like that. But so that's something that I got to get done also. That's, I guess, until you said that, I hadn't even thought about changing over my cars either, or my tires. But
when we first started doing tires, we only had two cars we were doing, my mom's and my dad's.
Yeah.
And like I was like just in high school when I started learning how to do it myself. My dad had bought all the tools to do it. And then it's now grown to 5 cars in that time. Because my sister, I have to have my car. My sister has her car. My brother has his car. His wife has her car. It's a family affair. It took actually. I'm surprised. It only took us a couple of hours because like we have to prop up each tire with the jack. It's not like one of those jacks that lifts up the whole damn car. We don't have that in the Morassutti, so we do actual work.
Tough. Well, I went to a card show over the weekend. That was a lot of fun. And the Leafs took a loss over the weekend as well. Not as much fun. So let's get into the game. Leafs falling 5-4 to Detroit in overtime. Domi kind of taking a dumb penalty at the end of regulation there. Gave Detroit a 4-on-3 in overtime. And, well, you know, they converted. Not sure what TJ Brody was doing on that play, but they converted. And Matthews unable to hit the magic number of 70 goals on home ice. What a shame, Dave. What a shame. I really, really wanted him to get it done on home ice and, you know, bask in that glory in front of Leaf faithful.
I thought it was going to happen. Like it was setting up so perfectly. And then I will say the Red Wings did a good job of, they basically just told Maurice Sider, you're staying with him the rest of the game. Same with Ben Sherratt. That was a tough task for them, but it was just like the crowd was so into it. That crowd was probably one of the liveliest I've seen all season long.
Yeah, they're getting into playoff form. The crowd is rounding into playoff form for next week. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think everybody wanted him to hit 70 on home ice. Like the celebration, the elation that would have went through that building would have been awesome. And even like after the game, Sheldon Keefe was like, I want him to do it for the fans. Like, obviously, for Austin, it'd be an amazing accomplishment. But he's like, I wanted it to happen in front of the fans and have them see it and be able to witness it live and celebrate with the team and with Austin. Unable to do it. He did get one, right? He got one. He's up to 69 right now. I know there's a lot of immature people who want that number to stay as is, which would, for obvious reasons. But man, I really hope he can get 70. It's interesting though. as they go into this week. They've got 2 games left, but it's a back-to-back. And now Sheldon Keefe, I don't know if you heard his comments post-game, but like he called this race for 70 distracting, and he wanted Matthews to get it, not only for him to reach the mark and for the fans to be happy and go home happy, but he just wanted this distraction to kind of go away, and they could just play hockey for the next 2 nights and try and round into playoff form. Whereas now it's the next couple of games going to be, all right, where's Auston? We got to try and find Auston and get him his goal, because I don't know if anyone's going to want to take shots on net in these next 2 games. They're probably just going to be looking off to Matthews to make sure he gets 70.
Of course, like these next 2 games, they're locked. They already know they're 3rd seed in the Atlantic. There's
Right.
like at this point, and they've been doing this for like what 2 weeks now, ever since we knew that this the milestone was within reach. They've been feeding this guy, but they haven't been doing it like blatantly. I will say, like they're not passing up open nets to get it to Auston Matthews, which good.
But
because
if he doesn't score in Tampa, that's going to happen in Florida. Like, it is going to happen. He's going to get fed every single puck. And I mean, you saw at the end there, like a couple of times in the third period, especially on the power play, it looked like Marner was looking for Auston. Like, there may have been a lane in the third there for them to score and take the lead, but he was kind of looking for Auston, and Auston wasn't really in position. So then he tried to pass it back over to Willie, and it didn't really work out, obviously there. But I still think he's going to get it. But I understand where Keefe is coming from, where he understands, it's a great milestone, and he wants Auston to get it, but it is becoming a little distracting. And I wonder if that's a big reason why, we're seeing some of these games look a little sloppy, because that, just playing focused and playing tight isn't necessarily the MO. It feels like Auston 70 is the MO right now.
Well, he played in that game against Detroit. He played over 3 minutes straight when they had the 4-minute power play to give him that chance to end it. Like, that game was tied. If they maybe just focused on getting a goal, anyone scoring on that power play, to me, I thought just get a goal, get the empty net opportunity for Detroit there, and maybe that's where you get Auston Matthews to 70, right? Not necessarily having, like, you had a 4-minute power play there. I thought that was going to be the game there. Like, I thought Detroit was going to be done. And to me, that's probably where the mistake was. You could have easily like, the way that they were playing in that second and third period, they could have easily have taken that game away. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it definitely a lot of focus on Matthews, and Keefe's not wrong on that. Like, you saw how some of the players were looking over Matthews' way when they had the puck. They weren't exactly, and look, Detroit knew that too. They knew, okay, we just got to make sure Austin's not in a position. That's where, as a team, you got to just be like, all right, they're clearly focused on Matthews. Let's just get the goal here and put ourselves potentially in an empty net situation. That's how I would have played it, but I think in the time it's a little tough. You're thinking of just get the milestone done.
Right. Well, he's got 2 more games to get it done. We've got some practice updates as well that we can get to in a little bit. But let's take a quick break, come back, and get to the good, the bad, the ugly from the Saturday night loss to the Red Wings. And also, let's get into this playoff race a little bit, because it's heating up. And that was a big 2 points for the Detroit Red Wings as well. So we'll get into all of that and more on the other side. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance with superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the price you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit. Only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you. We are on our road to 5K subscribers, and I can taste it, Dave. I can taste it. We are so close to getting to 5K. I'm just looking it up now. Last I checked, we were
10 away.
10 away. Yes, we are 10 away from 5,000 subscribers up on YouTube. Once we get there, we're going to be giving away an Auston Matthews jersey. Our goal was to get to 5K before playoffs, and I could taste it. Just like Matthews in 70, we could taste it. We're so close. We've got 2 more games to get it done, just like AM34. We need your help to make it happen by subscribing to the Locked On Leafs podcast and make yourself eligible for an Auston Matthews jersey. We do have episodes that come out 5 times a week, every single day, Monday through Friday. And with the playoffs right around the corner, you're not going to want to miss a moment or miss an episode. So subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms, including up on YouTube for video form content. All right, let's continue recapping the Saturday night loss to the Detroit Red Wings. It was the Leafs' final home game of the regular season, and unfortunately could not send the fans home happy as Detroit scores in overtime to get the victory. It didn't start out very well either, I might add, which will come up in just a moment. But boy, that first period was not a fun one for the fans in the building, I'm sure. But let's start with the good from the game. As we typically do, we'll go through the good, the bad, and the ugly in the loss. But we'll start on a positive note. Dave, what was good from Saturday night?
I'm gonna give it to Nick Robertson.
Hey, Nicky Bobby, another snipe.
He doesn't score that goal. I don't know if he got that comeback started.
Yep, for sure.
They were looking brutal. They had come off that brutal first period, and that's like, I think, and the broadcast said it too. Like, I only think of a handful of players on the team that can shoot the puck like that, and that again reminds us why Nick Robertson should be getting a little bit more credit when it comes to should he be in the lineup come the playoffs. Like, I know we've said, like, if he's not scoring, what else is he doing? Yeah. But that shot right there, like, again, you change the game in a flash with that one shot. That's why he should be in the lineup. So
are you starting to
I mean he might be in the lineup because of default. I mean, we're gonna get into the injury stuff a little later, but like
yeah. Today at practice, Domi was not there, so that kind of juggled things up. We will get to that in a little bit. I thought Nick Robertson definitely, every time he gets back into the lineup, he does go on like a good few game stretch where he's scoring and things are looking good. So we'll see if he's done enough to stick into the lineup. Once Yarncroc comes back, that's where things might get a little dicey, and where I wonder how the lineup is going to shake out once things are fully healthy with this team. But yeah, you mentioned that got the party started. Like, the second period in general, I thought was a good period by the Maple Leafs after such a piss poor opening frame. They ended up scoring kind of 3 quick ones to get the game all tied up. But I thought John Tavares had a pretty solid game, and I thought he's played really well of late, like quietly picking up points pretty well every game, if not every other game. And he scored a big goal, that tying goal, just really nicely placed shot up top corner, good feed from Marner. I thought Tavares had himself a pretty solid game, and he's had a really good end to the year. He has 28 points in 31 games since the All-Star break, and 9 of his goals have come at 5-on-5, which is something that was a major concern earlier in the year. Since the break, the All-Star break, he seemed to have played with a quite bit more consistency, and it's been good to see, and something that you definitely need to have going towards the playoffs. So I thought Tavares had himself a solid game, and want to give him a little bit of a shout out here. Anything else that stood out to you? Power
good
play
vibes.
finally got a couple
Yeah,
goals.
power play finally scoring. I think that was. I would have liked
Except
to have seen them score that. Well,
right.
they did score, like obviously with Tavares scoring. But yeah, I think that's been something that if you're getting those power play opportunities, especially 4 minutes, right? You got to make advantage. You got to take advantage when you're getting those. When teams are racking up the penalties against you. Like, look, if you're only getting 1 or 2 opportunities, that's one thing. If you're getting 4, 5, 6 power plays in a game, you gotta make the other team pay for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And they did, but unfortunately, there was too much bad to overcome throughout the game. So let's get into the bad from Saturday night's 5-4 loss to the Detroit Red Wings. Um, I mean, Domi's penalty at the end of regulation. That was bad for many reasons. A, puts your team shorthanded, but it was also very unnecessary at that point in the game, I felt. And it kind of took away, like, I don't know, right then and there, I thought, well, there it goes. There goes Austin's chance for 70. Like, they're probably going to score on a 4-on-3 on overtime, and unfortunately, Austin's going to be sitting on the bench when it happens. And that's exactly how things ended up happening, right? So that was just a bad penalty to take at that point in time. TJ Brody, I I don't know what the hell he was doing on that game-winning goal, and this probably could even fit into the ugly, realistically. But it was just a bad play, bad read. It was a missed read, actually, just letting Larkin park himself in front of the net there on the game-winning goal for the tap in. But like, how you don't have him tied up is beyond me. Like, that's your goal. You need to defend the net and everyone who goes to it. And he just let Larkin sit there in front and get an easy tap in for the game winner to end the game in overtime. I don't know what Brody was doing on that play, but it was not good. That's for sure.
I to me that was my bad.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go with the Brody thing first because yeah, the Domi penalty was dumb because it happened late in the period. Like, just get out of the period, guys. Don't have to don't overdo it. You have I can't remember how many seconds were left in the period. I think we had been like 8 seconds or something left.
Yeah, there wasn't much,
Maybe
like 12 or something.
like just get out of the period. Give yourself a chance in overtime. And that's just unnecessary. Like, those are situational things that players just need to. I think, again, caught up in the moment that Auston Matthews was on the ice again, trying to give him that last chance to get to 70. Like, save yourself for overtime in that situation. And then, yeah, TJ Brody, I don't know what he was doing. Like, first period was bad for him, but that overtime, the puck is on your stick. You pass it to nobody along the boards. Like,
Yeah.
you just pushed it away so that it gets out of the danger zone. When it's like, get it up,
Turn,
make
fire,
it.
turn. Like, turn and fire it down. Yeah. That right ahead of that play. Yeah, it's right. He just, I don't know
Like,
what he did. He was trying to clear the puck, but he cleared it into the corner and then didn't beat his man to the corner, and it just puck ended up back in possession of Detroit.
yeah, the foot speeds. We know the foot speed's not there with him anymore. That's been a concern of ours. But what concerned me more so is, okay, you make that play, you're still in position to stop Larkin in front of the net. That's your guy. Tie
Yeah.
up the stick, push him, do something. And that's been my issue with Brody. He's not physical. He's a position player. If he's not blocking the shot, if he's not blocking the pass, he's very limited on what he's going to do in front of the net. He's not a guy that's going to push guys off unless it's after the whistle, which we saw him do. I can't remember who the player was that knocked him down earlier in the game, and he decided to go after him after the fact. But yeah, to me, and you'll see at practice, he wasn't even among the D pairings, which
Yeah.
again speaks to what I said last week, which I can't trust this guy in the lineup come playoff time.
Ugh, which is insane to think about, where a year ago he was your most reliable defenseman, and now I can't even have him in the top 6. It's insane how quick it's fallen off for TJ Brody. Yeah, I mean, I debated whether putting that in the bad and the ugly, but for me, like, there's nothing uglier than Ilya Samsonov's first period. Like, that was
Yeah.
bad. That was not that had like Buffalo vibes to it, and coming off of the game against New Jersey, and then you go and you allow another 5 spot here. Look, I can't help but wonder or notice and think to myself, are we going back down back down that path? Like I don't know. Like, how do you feel about Samsonov after these last couple of games? Are you a little unsettled by things as we head into the playoffs based on his play the last couple of games?
It hasn't been like the last game, the game before the Red Wings game. I was like, okay, they didn't play well in front of him, but at the same time, he let in some goals he shouldn't have allowed.
Right.
And there's always going to be that concern. And it was mentioned in the Discord, like the last thing we should be worrying about with a goaltender is his mental psyche, right? Is whether he can handle those things. And to me, that fourth goal, like you have to stop the bleeding somewhere. Like I understand that Sheldon Keefe came out, and I know why he's doing it. We left Sammy out to dry. We can't do that to him. He's trying to protect his goaltender,
Yeah.
but the goaltender also can't allow a goal like that. He can't. Like people are apologizing for Samsonov on X, and I'm like, first off, you don't need to apologize for a professional goaltender. Like, let's stop. Like, goaltenders are allowed to save shots that are a little difficult to save. That's their job. Like, everything can't be routine for them. So, like,
Right.
that fourth goal was inexcusable. You're okay. 3-1 is not as daunting as 4-1, although James Reimer was in the net for the 4-1. So, I guess maybe
Yeah,
they thought
we don't got to go there, Dave. We don't got to go there. Come on
Hey,
now.
I love James Reimer. I have an autograph, 2 autographs from the guy, so I'm not putting this on James Reimer.
Oh, I'm not talking
Okay?
about Reimer, but like just
Yeah,
the situation. We
I
don't got
know.
to bring it up.
Hey, the Leafs are on the reverse side this time, okay? Well, almost if they actually figured it.
But they didn't finish. That's
They
the
didn't
problem.
finish. They didn't finish. I know, but they almost got there. To me, yeah, he's gonna be the game 1 starter for sure.
Yeah.
But he's gonna have a short leash, in my opinion.
Well, I'm curious. Like, I don't like in my head going into this game, my thought process was, all right, Samsonov, you have a bounce back. You're thrown back into the net on Saturday for sure after the tough game against Jersey on Thursday. Hopefully he bounces back, has a good performance, and then you can kind of shelf him for a week and you give Martin Jones one more start in case he needs to come and play. He hasn't played in a while. And then you give a start to Joseph Woll. So, like, to me, if he played well in that game against Detroit, that could have been his final game of the regular season, and they could kind of move on and get set. And he could, turn the page on the regular season and think playoff mode. Now I'm not so sure. Like, that's 2 bad games that's leaving a sour taste in your mouth. I'm not sure, Sheldon Keefe wants that to be like the last memory for Samsonov heading into the playoffs, and he might have to play one more game and hope that it goes well. But if it doesn't, that would be 3 straight bad performances, and that's where things get real dicey real quick with this guy.
No, it's true. Like again, you can't go into a playoff game allowing, let's say, 3 goals in the first period or 4 goals and expect your team to win. Your goaltender has to give you, like, these are going to be expected to be low scoring games. It's going to be tight checking, tight defense. Look at Florida. Sergei Bobrovsky's been playing so much better of late.
Yep.
You can't hope that Samsonov's going to outduel Bobrovsky. He hasn't.
No.
He didn't last time, right? So that to me is also a problem.
Did outduel Vasilevsky. We
He
can't
did.
sell him short on that one.
He did. I do think also now Vasilevsky is now back to being superhuman again. So that's going to be a problem. I mean, that's not going to be the least problem, thankfully. Like, not
maybe round 2. Maybe round 2. Potentially round
but
2.
For me, it's more so you can't, if Samsonov's not there right off the hop, if he lets in a couple bad goals, that's not going to play well for the confidence in the team. It's not just Keefe, it's not just Samsonov, it's also the team and how they defend in front of him, how nervous they could be about trying to do too much as well.
Yeah, I think maybe what we can say is these last couple games didn't lose him the starting job, and we never thought that a couple bad starts would lose him the starting job. But what I think it did do or has done is maybe it's giving Keefe the green light for a quick hook, Like if
Yeah.
things go south quick, I think he has every right now to quickly pivot to Joseph Woll come playoff time. If the first game or first couple periods look like they did in the first period against Detroit, if that happens against Florida early on, that might be curtains for Samsonov in the playoffs. All right, let's take a quick break. Let's come back and let's get into some of those practice updates. The lone benefit of a bit of a later pod on a Monday is we can get into some of the practice updates, and it's the final practice of the regular season for the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's some lineup changes that we'll tell you about, and we'll do that next here on the Locked On Leafs podcast. Today's show is brought to you by Sleeper. Regardless of where you are in the current standings, I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number one choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contest. All you have to do is pick whether studs like McKinnon or Matthews or Marner, Ovechkin, Crosby, whoever will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in any given game. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Leaf fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL. You'll get up to a 100% match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper terms of use for details and locational availability. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti with you. So after a couple of games where things haven't gone so swimmingly, I guess for Toronto, the lineup blender has come out, and some injuries have occurred over the last couple of games that might have impacted this. We know that Max Domi did not practice on Friday or Saturday before the game, and then did end up playing. But he is not at practice today, nor was Bobby McMann, who left the game Saturday with an injury. So that's 2 players that were skating in the top 6 over the course of the last couple of weeks here that were out of the lineup. So that means that we have some changes in the top 6. Dave, would you like to share with the listeners what those look like?
Yeah, so obviously with Domi not at practice, that means the reunion of the Auston Matthews and Mitch Marner duo. It's funny. I was asking my neighbor's son. He's like 10 years old. It's like, do you like Matthews without Marner? And he's like, no, I want Marner with Matthews. So there's still, if you ask the 10-year-olds, even with but he did say I want Max Domi on that line too. So he wasn't totally against Max Domi there. But yeah, so that was the big change with Domi not there. I don't know if that's going to be, my guess is that Domi probably doesn't play if he's dealing with something like this at this point. If Domi is not 100%, don't put him in a position to further injure himself. So with Marner moving up, that means William Nylander is no longer on the bottom 6. He is now back up to the top 6. I know he would play top 6 with Tavares and Marner during times, but he was stapled with Tavares, and Matthew Knies was moved up from the 4th line to the 2nd line, as Mike brings up the lines from practice here. Thank you. So you got now a 2nd line of Knies, Tavares, and Nylander, which I actually don't hate. And then obviously with all that shuffling going around, Noah Gregor was back practicing. He's now in the he's in the bottom 6. He was on the 3rd line with Holmberg and Robertson. You have your 4th line of Dewar, Kemp, and Reeves. The other person that's still obviously not at practice is Calle Yarncroke. And McMann. Well, McMann, obviously, he got hurt Saturday, leg injury from what was being reported. So he was another guy that, and Sheldon Keefe did mention when you're talking about if they're going to keep Matthews push, well, they're going to have to play Auston Matthews because they don't have any other forwards unless they make a call up, right? And so,
right.
right now, this lineup that Mike has in front of you is probably the lineup you likely will see against Florida, right? Maybe if one of Domi or McMann feel good enough, but at this rate, if they're not 100%, don't play them.
Yeah, I think this might be the lineup. I'm pretty confident that this is what we'll see. I'm with you. If they're not, if they're banged up, give them a day off, maybe even both games off, leading into the playoffs. No need to re-aggravate anything because they'll need both of those guys come playoff time. And Callie Yarncroc, as I think he was skating, he was on the ice skating, but didn't take part in full practice with the team. So I think he's close. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he's ready to go for week one, Yarncroc, but not quite ready to go yet. What this tells me, and I think this is something that's very telling, is that like Dewar, Camp, and Reeves are still remaining on a line together. I think Keefe is locked in. Like this is my fourth line for the playoffs.
Mhm.
I like what they've done. Dewar, Keefe, and Reeves. That's going to be my fourth line come game one, and I'm pretty set on that. I also wonder how much Brody not being in this lineup is indicative to how Keefe is leaning come playoff time as well. Like Riley Labushkin is a pairing that we've come to believe will be solidified going into the playoffs. Benoit McCabe has been their best pairing all season
Mhm.
long. So that's locked in. And Timothy Liljegren coming back into the fold here as a right-hand shot, someone who can move the puck a little bit, playing with Edmondson, who's more of that thumper, tougher to play against, rugged defenseman who can control your net front. Like they like that pairing and they like the skill set, the complements that they have with each other. And it's lefty righty, which now leaves TJ Brody kind of as the outside on the outside looking in. And
Yeah.
it's just insane to me how we're going to be suiting up for game one of the playoffs on Saturday or Sunday, and Brody could not be on the ice for the Maple Leafs. It's wild that we've gotten to this point with TJ Brody and how far his game's fallen off.
Yeah, it again, like this isn't like a new development. It's been coming for a bit. Sheldon
Yeah,
Keefe tried. He tried to send the message to the veteran by sitting him. It worked for a bit, and now it's kind of back to again. You can look good against certain opponents, but Detroit, like that's a team that was desperate. They knew that their playoff lives were on the line. A loss, I think if they lost that game in regulation, they were out of the playoffs too. Like were on danger of losing their playoff spot.
yeah.
So
I don't
like
think they would have been out, but they would have been definitely not in a good spot. Right now, I have the playoff odds actually, and the Islanders, who currently have the third spot, are 95% chance to make it. They have the third spot in the Metro. The
yeah,
Capitals have a 33% chance to make it. Red Wings, now with a win on Saturday, have a 32% chance to make it. Flyers 19%, Penguins 19%. So, uh, yeah, lots of moving and shaking over the weekend, and still with a couple of games to go for most of these teams, we'll see some more action throughout the rest of the final few days of the regular season. That was a big 2 points for Detroit for sure Saturday night.
yeah, and that's a game where you want to see like a guy like TJ Brody be able to step up, right? Like
Yeah.
that he was put in big spots there, and he didn't get the job done. It's simple as that.
No, he did not. No, he did not. That is for sure. Um, so really quickly before we take off, there's a few games tonight that are going to be huge
Yeah.
for playoff implications. Just pulling up the schedule tonight, but I know there's a couple of
Chaos.
games.
It's going to be great. There's like seven of the 8 games have playoff implications, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so we got Detroit in action tonight. They're hosting Montreal. So, and the Canadians have been taking points off teams too. So that'll be a big game.
Lane
You've got the
Hudson making his NHL debut, by the way.
that'll be interesting. And then we got Pittsburgh and Nashville tonight. That's a big game. Obviously, the Penguins need to win out to even have a chance to make the playoffs. You got Washington taking on the big bad Bruins. They need to win that game. Islanders Devils, Tri-City game. Like, there's a lot of playoff implications. And then, you look at also, by the way, the Bruins and Capitals, like that's a big game for both of them because
Yep.
Boston and the Rangers are still trying to duke it out for that number 1 seed. The Rangers have the easier matchup with the Senators, who also have been stealing points off of teams. So there's a lot of playoff implications tonight. Edmonton takes on the Sharks, possibly a night for Connor McDavid to come in and get his 100th assist potentially. So this is going to be a great Monday night of hockey. Hockey's not typically a big Monday night team sport, but there's a lot to watch tonight. And with the Leafs off, we could sit there and watch it all. It's going to be great. And then, back-to-back games in the state of Florida. Got the Panthers tomorrow, Tampa on Wednesday. It's going to be a great final 3 days of the regular season. And guess what? When you talk about the teams and all of the playoff spots and the seeding up for grabs, dude, the MVP is still up for grabs in these final 3 days, which is insane. Insane. I've gone on record. I said this when I was hosting Overdrive on Friday. I think this is like the most insane and the most it's like the wildest final week of the NHL regular season that we've seen in quite some time, maybe ever. There's just races all over the place. It's crazy.
Yeah, like Boston, they win tonight. They clinched the Atlantic Division, and it's almost like, and we're talking about that top seed. I think that the Atlantic Division is important, but I think that top seed is more important because you do not want to be the team that faces Tampa.
No,
exactly. In round one. You want that second wild card team. So, like, it's crazy playoff position in the East. This Eastern Conference playoff race it's great. It also kind of reaffirms that one day, and this is probably a conversation down the road about wild card rounds and things like that once you get more teams involved in the league. But it's good that there's been a battle like this. I will say there's been some teams who have dropped the ball, notably Philadelphia, who are third in the Metro and now are on the outside looking in. Mm-hmm. But
they're tied with 87 points. Yeah. So like there's still a chance.
But they have one fewer game remaining than everyone else.
Yeah. I just want to know. So the Bruins, so if the Rangers lose tonight and the Bruins win out their final 2 games, the Bruins take the top spot in the Eastern Conference and will then play one of Washington, Detroit, Pittsburgh, one of those teams, or Philly, I suppose, as opposed to Tampa. Yeah. So that's why Boston and Washington game is going to be huge because that also takes points away from Washington, who is trying to keep in lockstep in the playoffs currently with that number 2 spot. It's going to be very, very intriguing. It's an extremely intriguing final week of the NHL regular season. That was the word I was looking for earlier, by the way. Couldn't find it. But it's hella intriguing and it's a lot of fun and I can't wait. Let's finish things off here, Dave, and we'll reconvene tomorrow when the Leafs get set to take on the Panthers in game 81 of the regular season. But that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. You can follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We need 10 more subscribers on YouTube to hit 5K. We're trying to get it done before the playoffs. I think we will. I wouldn't be surprised if we come back tomorrow, Dave, and we're there and we can have a little party, a little celebration off the top. And that's thanks to all you guys, the listeners here of the Locked On Leafs podcast. We'll be back with another episode for you guys tomorrow. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.